Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm just getting the Instagram channel started. I'm Tiffany, and we are going to talk about the presidential debate that's coming up for the United States. There we go. We're live everywhere. There is a debate coming up on June 27th of 2024, and it's between Joe Biden, Donald Trump. And what I did was a very brief, short, neutral analysis. I don't have a history in talking about politics. There are many astrologers who are perhaps more equipped to discuss this from a historical point of view. But this was a question that one of my students asked in my group. And so, what I wanted to do was just give you kind of a brief, neutral way of looking at both charts during this time, during June 27th. Hi, Marilyn. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. I see you. So I'm recording this live. It's June 25th. The debate's happening in a couple of days. And it'll stay up on my channels later. So if you guys have feedback for me, or if you have questions for me, put them in the chat wherever you are, and I will certainly see it. So again, what we're talking about is just a brief astrological analysis of how the debate's going to shake out. This is the chart of the debate, the chart of the day for the debate. So I need to zoom in a little bit. What I didn't list here is that we're having a last quarter moon on Friday, and it's in 7 degrees of Aries. And so this last quarter moon kicked off something that started back in April of 2022. So I definitely want to be sure that we cover that. But the mood of the day of the debate, I feel like there's going to be a plot twist. I feel like there's going to be something that is a little bit unexpected, which is kind of expected in a debate. But here's why I think that. You see, Mercury and Pluto are squaring Chiron. So the people, right, the way that we're thinking, the way that we want to unearth something is in a challenge to Chiron, in a challenge to healing, right? And a challenge to finding unity and harmony. That doesn't seem like the thing that's going to shake out here. So Mercury and Pluto, Mercury, the way that we think, the way that we communicate, the way that we learn things, the way that we exchange information, as well as Pluto, right? That source of power in that challenging position to Chiron, which in astrology we call the wounded healer, but Chiron is so much more than that. Chiron is so much more than that. But it feels like this tension between what we're thinking, what we want to have happen, and then the power behind all of that. So there's this tension building already just in the skies. Venus is sextile Mars, and that's pretty good chemistry. So I feel like the gentlemen are going to have their charm. I feel like they're going to have their charisma. I think that there's going to be a certain attraction, a certain good chemistry going on. And then with Saturn retrograde in Pisces over the weekend too, Saturn goes retrograde annually. So this is not something to be scared about. I learned Saturn retrograde acts like a mini Jupiter. And so Jupiter is a planet of benevolence and expansion and growth, right? And I feel like Marilyn says, you think it'll be canceled. Okay, good thing I did it brief. Thank you. But I feel like this Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a time when you can regroup with your spiritual discipline, what are you devoted to? What is your sense of duty when it comes to your faith and your spirituality? And so I feel like that's going to be on the hearts and the minds of the public as well. What are they devoted to? Who can lead them? And then Mercury sextile Uranus, that's where I feel like there's going to be a plot twist. So the fun thing that I found here is that Venus in 13 degrees of Cancer falls on one of the unfortunate fixed stars, which is known as the two jackals. And so how perfect is that to have a debate fall on a fixed star where it's like two jackals? Neptune in 29 Pisces, it's the anaretic degree. And that's not a popular star, right? Like that is an unfortunate fixed star as well, where you can see themes of prison, themes of some of the darker subjects. And then Pluto is in 1 degree of Aquarius, also falls on a fixed star, the Eagle. And so I feel like that is a little bit more fortunate. So you can see the mixed vibes. Overall, you can see what they're going to talk about. You can see that imprisonment's going to come up. You can see that there's going to be that that flirtation in the airwaves, and you can also see that people are going to be really demanding a healing occur. So mental healing, right? Mental health as well with Mercury there. So I mentioned that last quarter moon. So something's wrapping up. So what is it that a last quarter moon represents? It's the fourth peg in a lunar series, a lunar family series that started back in April of 2022. So April 1st, 2022, a new cycle began that is closing now. It looked kind of unremarkable in both of their charts, so I didn't go into that, but I did look up April 1st of 2022, see kind of what was going on in the news that day. And so, of course, President Biden is commenting on Ramadan. Secretary of State Blinken attended a meeting in Israel with the foreign ministers of these countries. There was, let's see, we had the 2-month truce in the Yemen conflict was announced. Security was bolstered across Israel and the occupied territories after a Palestinian gunman killed 5 in what was their 5th attack in less than 2 weeks. Russia, Ukraine agreed to the ceasefire. And Biden promised to send more aid to the Ukrainian president and also reduced oil prices. So helping, right, the situation. I guess that's what I was reading. Again, probably not the best historic political informed astrologer. I'm just showing you what I found in the news that completes this cycle. So inflation was also a big deal in the news on April 1st of 2022. So let's look at the debate in Trump's chart. What I did here was I put the time and date of the debate, which is 9 o'clock Eastern time, so pretty late, like way past my bedtime, in Atlanta. And here's what I found. So you can look at this, take a screenshot if you want. You can see like what's going on, what's the mood, how are people going to be relating to him. Right over here, the moon, let's see, is that 8th house? Yes, that's his 8th house. I feel like that the sentiment around our shared resources, our shared territories, the leadership that's provided and the guidance around shared territories, the mood is going to be positive for him in that way. And then the outer planet aspects, what's going on for Trump that day? Did you see that Uranus was moving through his midheaven? So Uranus, the planet that describes shock and awe and great changes, and Einstein and aha moments and brilliance and lightning bolts and this really volcanic kind of changes, right? Big changes, big announcements, moved into his 10th house of his career, his public standing, the way that people see him may feel a lot different now than it used to. So Uranus moving into your 10th house, of course, there's going to be big career changes, good news, bad news, who knows? But Uranus moving through the 10th for sure is an attention situation where there's going to be a lot of limelight, like he's in the limelight. Okay, so the outer planet aspects, I just mentioned Uranus, but also Jupiter's trine his Neptune. And so I feel like one of the ways that he will be appealing to people is through specific religious groups. I noticed that Neptune was quincunx his ascendant. And so I feel like, when you're talking about a quincunx to your ascendant, you're talking about kind of changing your appearance, changing the way that you're perceived and received by the public. And so I feel like that's positive because I feel like it's going to show a softer side, a different approach, less of what we saw. I just had a thought come and go, but I feel like he's going to show a different side of himself to us that will be a lot softer. Uranus's sextile is Venus. And so I also feel like he's going to receive support from specifically unconventional groups of women, groups that you wouldn't think would line up and do in mass. So the outer planet transits are heavier, they're louder. The inner planet transits are just what's happening over those couple of days. So specifically, the sun is going to square his Neptune a couple of days prior. So he might be feeling a little lost. He might be feeling a little misunderstood or unclear about how the debate's going to go for him. Mercury's quincunx his moon. He might be a little bit nervous, producing some anxiety, feeling kind of emotionally disconnected from what needs to be said. And then Mercury conjuncted Saturn. So that's on the positive side for him, is that Mercury rules the way that we think, right? The way that we learn, the way that we exchange ideas. And it's next to his Saturn, which is this the Lord of karma, the Lord of consequences. Saturn represents our duties, our responsibilities, the hard lines that we have to draw, and our long-term vision. And so I feel like Mercury next to his Saturn is good news, that he's just working on something bigger, part of a bigger plan that may not be visible to all of us. And I feel like there will also be news around paying for consequences. You know, the karma boomerang comes around. And so news around consequences will, I believe, be available. Venus is square his Chiron. And so I feel like there's going to be an element of forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, needing forgiveness, offering forgiveness that feels very deep and profound and heartfelt. All right. So let's look at Biden's chart. So the moon for him moving into his fourth house of home and family. So families, certain families, anyhow, being more drawn to him, feeling that like a sense of family first is part of what the attraction is there, feeling intuitively connected to the home front, things like this. Now, there's a lot more aspects that we're going to talk about here. So, his outer planet aspects, I see Pluto is trying his Neptune. And so, I do feel like he's being spiritually uplifted. So, Neptune being the spiritual planet, Pluto being that planet of big transformation, right? Unearthing something, turning lead into gold, changing things, ideally for the better. So, Pluto is trying his Neptune. I just feel like there's a spiritual shift. Again, that both parties, or in both of their charts at least, show something having to do with faith, with religious groups, with spiritual groups. So both of them have a positive aspect in that regard. Biden's Jupiter sextiles his Pluto, and I think that's going to give him more confidence. He's going to appear strong. I feel like it's a good time to ask for a promotion when you've got Jupiter and Pluto working together in your chart. So I feel like he will be recognized for his work. And Jupiter is conjunct his Saturn. So that is when we're going through these growing pains, when we're trying to grow, but there's some constrictions going on and restrictions happening. There might be an increase in his duty, or he might have to slow down a little bit. There's that push-pull feeling with Jupiter and Saturn. So we'll see how that plays out. And then his inner planet aspects, right? Venus is sesquisquare his sun. I feel like he's having to reassess maybe what he thought he was going to appeal to isn't the case. And so I feel like he's going to have to be pivoting mid-moment and listening to what the people really need and what they're really saying and what the questions really are versus what the plan was. And that can throw anybody off, right? Venus is trine his Mars. And so I feel like you're going to see something more passion than you've seen before about a particular topic. He might get on a roll about something and just express his heartfelt desire, or his passions boil up or bubble up in a good way, hopefully. The sun is going to sesquisquare his Mercury. So that's a challenging position, right? The sun in the sky illuminating Mercury, the mind, how we think, how we communicate, how we appear. So there could be some performance anxiety. There could be some bobbles in the way things are said. And then Mercury trines his Mercury. So that's good news. You know, that's usually where we are communicating effectively. So I think if he has some trip ups, that he's going to overcome them just fine. What else did I list for you? Oh, I was looking at their charts together. So I was looking at Biden and Trump's charts as synastry on top of each other. And so Trump's South Node falls in Biden's seventh house of open enemies. And Biden's Sun, North Node, and Uranus fall in Trump's house, seventh house of open enemies. So have they been opponents in many, many lives? Is this kind of a karmic tying up of things for them under this last quarter moon in 7 degrees of Aries? Trump's Chiron falls on Biden's Mars at the very, very last degree. I think there's 2, but it's at the very last part of his 12th house. So subconscious things where we self-sabotage, where we have deep and old and profound wounds. And so I just wonder if there's much, much, much more than just 2 people living in the same time period. I feel like this opponent energy, right, is very clear when you overlay their charts and you look at the points of destiny and the nodes in the seventh house of open enemies. So, we think about the seventh house as the house of relationships too. So, I mean, this is a relationship that they're in. I think that's the last slide I have. I'm going to try to stop sharing. Awesome. And I see I see you, Kimberly and Marilyn. Marilyn's saying that RFK Jr. is going to do a live stream. That's awesome. He was excluded by CNN. And so I didn't look him up in this simple analysis. I think, I would love to. I would love to do more of this if you guys like it. It looks like a ton of people have joined on Instagram, but no comments. So if you guys have any questions for me, please ask soon. Otherwise, I was really nervous to do that. I don't like talking about politics because it divides people. But the United States of America has their Mars in Gemini. There was never going to be like a united front. Like it was always going to be a division when it comes to politics. And so having this two-party system and others 2+ party system, right? That's part of the chart of the United States of America. So I always get nervous about it because have 4 planets in Libra, 4 planets in Scorpio. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But, the truth is this is the news right now. And this is a way that people can use astrology and the night sky to determine things. The Hebrew astrologers, the ancient astrologers, right? They believe in one God. And they looked at the night sky to determine how seasons were going to go, including how we eat food, how we grow food, who's going to be the king, who's going to be the baby Jesus, right? There are many things that you could be looking at, not to control the future or to control the destinies, but just to illuminate them, to give you some idea that this debate is on the fixed star of 2 jackals. How fascinating is that? Do you guys find that as fascinating as I do? Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I think that concludes my short synopsis, my little analysis of looking at the debate and the 2 charts of those debating. I hope you found it useful. Please let me know. And I will get my confidence to do some more of these if you guys like that. All right. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. I'm Tiffany Harlick, and namaste.